it talks about how this servant was led away innocently, and it says over here in verse 7, he was oppressed, though he humbled himself and opened not his mouth. As a lamb that is led to slaughter, and as a sheep that before her shearers is dumb, he opened not his mouth. In other words, we're talking about somebody that basically put up no resistance whatsoever when they came to take him. Right? Now the question is, based on what information we have, did Jesus go to his death without protesting? Well, let's look to the Gospels. John chapter 18, verse 36. Jesus answered. In other words, what happened was he was put on trial. And Pilate asked him, is it true that you're the Messiah? Are you the Messiah? Basically, Pilate understood that the Messiah is not just some man who comes to die for the sins of the world. If that was the case, there's nothing to worry about. He understood the Messiah as being somebody who is going to be a political leader, is going to be a king, and he's going to overthrow Rome. So Pilate asked him, are you the king of the Jews? And basically in John 18:36, Jesus says like this. Jesus answered, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then my servants would fight so that I might not be delivered to the Jews. But now my kingdom is not from here. What is he saying? Essentially, he's giving a very good argument to get himself off the hook. What is being held up for over here? Sedition. He's being trumped up charges against him for political revolt. And Jesus gives a very eloquent answer saying, you've got nothing to worry about. Why? Because my kingdom is not of this world. Right? I'm not here to start a political revolt. I'm here to bring the spiritual kingdom. Thereby, he would get himself off the hook. So clearly we don't see that he didn't open up his mouth. He gave a very forceful response to Pilate. In Matthew chapter 26, verse 39, Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he gets down to pray. This is before they come to arrest him. And he says, my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. What he's saying over here is, God, I don't know if I want to go through with this. I don't know if I want to go through with the crucifixion over here. Right? Please, if it was possible, please remove this cup from me. But then he says, obviously, but will go as your will, not as my will. And then again in Matthew chapter 27, verse 46, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That's a corruption of the Hebrew, which is azabtani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? Again, it's not an imagery of a lamb going to the slaughter, not opening up his mouth. How about Jewish martyrs? We know the story of Rabbi Akiva, that when he was being taken out to execution, it was the time of the recital of the Shema. And the way they executed Rabbi Akiva, we read about it on Yom Kippur, they took pitchforks and they combed pieces of flesh off his body. And while they were combing pieces of flesh off his body, he was saying the Shema. And he was smiling. And his students couldn't take it. They said, Rabbi Akiva, to such a point, you're going to be that religious? You're going to be that devoted? How can you do it? And he says, all my life I have wondered about the verse when we say you have to love Hashem your God with all your soul and with all your might, with all your heart, with all your soul, and I explain that to mean that even when they take your soul, even if you have to give your life up, you still have to love your God. And I've always wondered to myself, when will I have a day to see whether or not I can live up to that? And the day has come. Now here we have an imagery of Rabbi Akiva going willingly to his death. And how many millions of Jews went to their deaths thinking, Ani Mami Be'emunah Shlema, that they believe in the faith of the coming of the Mashiach. And they believe, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. People who did not protest their death, but went like sheep.